Welcome to another episode of A Cuppa with a Conversationalist. My name is Con and I am the Conversationalist. And as always, I have my latte in tow. Today, we have, to put it mildly, an electrifying episode. My guest today is the only person known to have survived 22,000 volts and 1,200 amps through the heart and lived to see another day. When Theo Venter removed his insulated gloves while working on a damaged transmission pole, he made a decision that would impact himself and his family in ways he couldn't have imagined. But why did Theo, an experienced linesman, make what the safety industry would tell us was a poor decision? As a result of his experience, Theo's purpose was clear: to save others from having to experience something so horrific. Theo has formed the 6 bedrock foundation pillars, which he extricated from his story, that he aims to transform workplace culture on a deeper cellular level. His program, Just Another Day, takes an in-depth look at the way in which workplace culture dictates safety, breaking through the many myths and misunderstandings associated with our safety industry. Theo is also co-author of Get Real and Convenience Kills. Please welcome Theo. How are you, Theo?
Con, that was one of the most excellent, absolutely beautiful intros I've ever had in my life. And I have been introduced many, many times. Mate, do I have a shocking tale for you?
Mate, we're going to have puns left, right, and center, electrifying, strap yourself in, plug yourself in, and it's going to be endless. Theo, I appreciate your time, taking your time out. I know you're a very, very busy man, sharing to share your story and the lessons that you've learnt with our audience, both listeners and viewers. Mate, can we start first of all, just briefly? How did you become a linesman? What were the circumstances behind that? Just briefly touch.
Absolutely. Very interesting story, right? My dad, and I think in the next 40 minutes or so, you might hear quite a bit about my dad. My dad was a linesman himself. So he was from the age of, I think, 15 or 16 linesman and going into that trade. His dad started being one as well. So clearly, when I finished school, I had this boot sending me straight into the same family trade, I guess you can say. And I started as an apprentice just after school. And those days, obviously, you'll pick up a slight little accent in my voice, Con.
Yes.
I just want to say this slight little accent. If you want to have a guess, it is from the double World Cup champion rugby union people of the world. I had to get it in, mate. Anyway. So obviously, just out of school, I went to the army. It was those days; it was compulsory, and then I started as an apprentice, and that's where I started my journey.
Mm. Yeah. The rugby. I'm not a rugby follower. My hand on heart. I've got a couple of really, really good mates that are regular listeners. Steve, you're an Englishman. Cop that, mate. There you go. We move on. Theo, it's February the 13th, 2006. Tell us about that day.
Well, that day, I guess that the lead up to that specific day is I got an amazing chance to bring my family over to the land of milk and honey. And I grabbed it with both hands and ended up in Australia for about, I think I was in Australia, I was in Perth for about 6 months, and my wife just arrived 3 months earlier. So basically just settling in, just getting everything settled in and feeling how it is. I've never done anything else in my life. I absolutely love my job. So loved working. It's the only thing I knew how to do. I loved going out there in the field and working with my hands and did all these things. So when I got this opportunity and I had my family into this beautiful country, yeah, you could not put me in a more perfect place.
Yeah.
That morning of February 13th was a Monday morning. I wake up and I've got the biggest smile on my face. My little princess, I got 3 kids. My little princess, I think she was 5 years old, and she gave me the biggest slap of a kiss on the cheek, and off I went to work that morning. And we had a camp planned, and she couldn't wait to go and sit on the beach for a bit of a camp. So anyway, I got to work that morning, and same as just another day. And I kind of they stopped us. We were a 3-man crew, and they stopped us and said, "Look, hey, could you go and could you just go?" There was one of the poles that got struck by lightning over the weekend. They needed us to go and fix this thing. So, I was a little upset because it was an extra job, and we've got our work planned, and as I go, just have a listen to all the holes in the cheese lineup. Just have a bit of a listen how this pans out. They choose my team, and obviously I'm not happy with it. And then they said to us, "We're choosing you because you guys get the job done. You guys always get the job done." And I'm pretty proud of that because we want to stand out, we want to be the best. So off we go to this power pole. We kind of decided that day that it was a 4-hour job, and February in Perth, mate, it is 45 degrees. It's not a game. So we knew there was a bit of urgency. We got up there, started working. Old Nico, my best mate, he's working right in front of me, doing a few things. Half an hour in, he says, "Look, I just cannot get this nut off. We needed to replace an insulator, the insulator on top of this big steel crossarm, and he's stuck." And we are literally right smack bang in the middle of, the job. We can't just back up and go. So I said to him, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Look, I just can't get to this nut. You can't see where it is. The big, thick gloves on your hands are so uncomfortable. You don't have any dexterity." And I said to him, "Mate, you must be a little bit tired. Why don't you stand back and let me have a go at it?" So reluctantly, kind of, he stood back, and I went in his place, and I put my big, thick gloves on there. And look, we were working on live electrical power lines because honestly, it's a safe trade. Don't let anyone tell you anything. It's safer to work on live electrical power lines statistically than on dead ones. So it's just the figures shows everything. If you follow your procedures on any trade, doesn't matter where you are, you'll be right. So I try to get this nut off, and I knew there was live 22 around me. Everything was, I thought, nice and safe and covered up, and just couldn't get this nut off. And the only thing that kind of rang in my ears was the fact that I always get the job done. So I'm pushing a little harder than him. He couldn't do it. He said, "Nah." And I just knew at some stage I just couldn't do it. And all of a sudden, my focus, all my concentration goes straight into this little nut. And I go, "This is the one thing I got to get off. We got a 4-hour job, all these things spinning in my head." Well, I had a quick glance behind me, and old Nico, he's talking to the safety observer downstairs. They're having a conversation. And I thought, if I could just quickly just put my bare hand in there and feel where this nut sits. It's a tiny little thing. It's nothing. In how many times I go over this thought, that in that moment, I never, ever, not for a single second, even considered how many times I was sitting in a safety meeting and they said to me, "Theo," or the whole group, "don't do it when it's unsafe." How many times have you sat in a meeting and a pre-start and they said, "Don't do it when it's unsafe"? In that moment, I'm thinking the only thing that's in my mind is nothing else but just get that nut off. Not even considering it. I pull my gloves out of my hands, and I could feel the sweat in my hands. And then I got this, all of a sudden, this huge, big gut feel, like this weird, strange feeling that something's going to go wrong. And it was so strong in my gut that I was thinking about it. I was like, "What the hell is this?" But then there was this little voice in my head saying, "It's right in front of you. Look at it. It's so convenient. It's so easy. All you got to do is just put it in there." And that's what I did. I put my hand in there. I felt this nut. I actually could wiggle the nut a little bit, and about 10 seconds later, the nut dropped down. And I clearly remember that moment, how happy and relieved I am that I've got this. I can put my gloves back on. But in the same moment, that insulator just, I don't know, Con, I think it just moved, or something caught my eye on that insulator, and pure instinct, I stuck my hand out to catch it so it doesn't fall. And I stuck my hand straight into 22,000 volts. I had my left hand, my right wrist on a steel cross arm that had an earth. And as soon as I stopped that insulator, I didn't see that section, and I stuck my hand straight in. Both my hands opened up, and that 1,200 amps ripped straight through me. Every single second that I was hooked on there was just absolute nightmarish. I remember every second, every moment that I was hooked on that, I could feel myself burning up. I was hooked on for about 2.5 seconds, and in electrical terms, that is an eternity. My knees gave in and dropped my helpless body into the basket, and that was the last moment of my life as I knew it. Yeah.
Wow. The obvious question is you've kind of already touched on it, and we kind of briefly spoke before we started recording about, were there any particular circumstances or anything that impacted your decision? And just in the conversation that we've had, I've written down, you get the job done. And so was there anything else? Like, why, after all the safety briefings you'd been in, everything that you knew, everything that you were aware of as an experienced line person, knowing what the potential risk was, I still have to ask the question, why?
Yep. That why that you are asking me now has rang and ringed in my head for many, many, many years. That why is the why that drove me to me sitting right in front of you today, me driving myself and offering my whole entire life now to finding out what is it that makes us do that in those circumstances, because it happens. I can promise you today, a million times a day over the whole planet, is that one moment when you do decide to take the convenient choice. And yes, today I understand exactly what it is, why we do it. I've seen so many workplaces. I've talked to so many people, incident investigations. I know, but in that moment, I'll answer you from the moment that I was standing there. To me, I did not have an intrinsically motivation and inspiration that stopped me from doing it. There was nothing more important for me than getting that bloody nut off. That was the most important thing at that stage, is to get that nut off, and that drove me 100% to do it. Because call it ego, call it camaraderie, call it whatever. There's a lot of excuses, and I can tell you there's a lot of people that can make these excuses and say that's why they did it and justify it. But in that moment, I didn't understand what was the most important thing in my life, and that's, I guess, in the moment of pressure, that's what you need to know. Yeah.
In hindsight, the most important thing in your life wasn't the nut.
I would have died that day, and someone else would have gotten in that pole 2 or 3 days later and go and fix it up regardless. How ironic would that be? So when I sit back and I look and I speak to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people live, they sit there and they start nodding their heads when I go into it and say, have you ever just had that gut feel that something's going to go wrong and you override it and you do it anyway? And everyone drops their heads and go, oh, yep, I've done it. Every single person would go there. And then I explain the biological. It's just biological. It's just exactly what happens in our heads. And I explain to them the simplicity of how that happens. And then the light bulbs goes on and they go, oh shit, like, wow, this. Why didn't anyone tell us this a long time ago? And and then they take it away, and there's a lot more than just that. But
of course,
it is, yeah.
Of course. We'll certainly chat about that in a little while. I'm just my fascination obviously is, first of all, the incident, but then of course, if that were the end of it, that would be ideal. However, you spent months in hospital, and you spent much, much more time after that challenging your own mental health and thoughts of suicide. I guess where I'd like to start is take us through your recollections, or what transpired in hospital, to, I guess, for the listeners and viewers to get a sense of the physical implications firstly.
Yeah. So I guess by the time I got to hospital, no one, they said to me, no one has ever survived anything like it. And I kind of said to them, look, I've been in that industry at that stage for 17, 18 years. I have seen people get hooked onto lines, and I've seen like a lot less, half of what I was. And I know exactly what happened. So when there's an arc flash, it's different than getting hooked up. When there's an arc flash, there's the air ionizes and it will burn your face, and you inhale, you'll burn your lungs. When you get hooked up, you expose yourself to such an energy that creates 30,000 degrees Celsius in the first half a second. It's hotter than the sun, and it instantly boils your blood. And when your blood boils, your soft organs will boil. And I know this sounds a little graphic, but everything that's water will explode first. So the known fact is that if you are exposed to a half an amp, less than an amp, 1 amp, then it could stop your heart. If you go up to a half an amp, or to 1 amp, maybe 2 or 3 amps on your power sockets, that'll kill you. And if you go up to like 100, it'll kill 1,000 men. So when I walked into, or when they pushed me into hospital, they knew that I had 4 suburbs of fault current rushing through my heart without the protection operating. Now, all that aside, all I'm saying is it means that I should have been dead and blown away and literally blown off. But the fact that I made it to hospital, they bandaged me up, and they put tubes in my system that morning with antibiotics and painkillers and stuff. So, and just said, Theo, now all you do is, like, we know what's coming next. And we all knew I wasn't going to make it. Normally, you get a grace period of a day, maybe a day and a half at most, to say goodbye to your family and friends. And I've seen it before. And then you will get infected and pass out and pass away. So my wife walked into that room after they were busy with me, and she had to be masked up, and for infection reasons, and she sat next to my bedmate, and it was just terrible. I just said to her, I'm so sorry, I made it such a big mistake. I promised that we're going to be safe in Australia, and I mucked it up, and then my little princess was outside the room, and my 2 boys screaming and crying for their daddy. And that was just heartbreaking for me to listen. And in that moment, I just wanted to hug my kids and say how much I love them. But the doctor said I can't see my kids because I smell. The smell in the room was terrible. My arms were blown up. Um, Everything was just, it was absolutely terrible. Um, Apart from that, I waited for a day and another day and a night, um, up to about 5 days. I think it's 4 or 5 days later when they said, Theo, it's about like, mate, why don't you just give it up? It's about time for you to get up and do it. So they sent me to radiology, and the guy started testing me with an ultrasound machine, and he gave me the thumbs up, and he said, we're good. I'm going to survive this. He said to me, Theo, I don't understand how this works. He said, I can't explain it to anyone, but he said, mate, your heart there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing.
Wow.
He said, you did not skip a heartbeat. There's not touched. He says, your arms are, absolutely blown up. You can see the entrance and the exit wounds if you got video.
Jesus.
So
Wow.
that's
Oh
the
my
two
God.
the two wounds, the entrance and the exit. So, 5 days later, he said to me, I don't know how to explain this to you, but you're going to make it. So, I guess then, I had the most renowned, amazing burn surgeon walking into my room. Her name is Dr. Fiona Wood. I don't know if everyone has ever heard of Fiona Wood. She is the most renowned burns unit surgeon in the world. She treated the Bali bombing. She invented the most amazing stuff. She stands in front of me and she said to me, we're going to have to remove all the dead tissues out of your arms so that you can survive this. So we went through 7 surgeries in the next 14 days to try and remove the dead tissues, but it just didn't help. So they decided to amputate my arms. There was this amazing doctor. They needed 5 signatures to amputate as a procedure, and one of the doctors said he might be able to help me. His doctor's name is Dr. Han Nguyen. He took me from there, and he said, "Look, I'm going to see if I can help him. I'll take him up." This extraordinary man walked into my life that day, and I still know him today very well. Big friends of mine. In fact, I'm his ambassador. And he saved both my arms. He did the next 10 surgeries in the next 20 days, and then saved both my arms. They took my back muscle, cut the whole back muscle out, put the muscle on my arm. If you've got video, you can see the muscle there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So 17 surgeries in just over the first month. And then I was in hospital for about just under 5 months, I think it was, when I got released. And that day was pretty special. Walking out on my own steam, and I was, I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of anyone that's been in a hospital for that long. There was nothing left of me. I had no body mass weight left. I was 60 kilos. My arms were both curled up towards my chest, and I didn't have any use and function of them. Blown up and very, very much swelling. Yeah. And then when I got home, it struck very hard, because in hospital you get treated very well. Everything works nicely, and then when you get back home, you kind of, as a proud man with a bit of dignity, you want to help around and do stuff. But I was so embarrassed, and I kind of sat in a dark room most of the time, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't eat. They had to feed me. They had to give me water from a straw and drink 17 tablets in the morning and 25 in the afternoon. And when, a week goes by, 2 weeks, a month, 2 or 3 months goes by, and the constant pain and fatigue just took it out of me. I couldn't take it. I dreamt every night of that moment where I was hooked on that line, and I guess the nightmares started when I woke up and I saw it was real every night, every day, until the time that the first thoughts of suicide, it was just clear. I was so useless, hopeless. No one would help me. I went too far out. I'm a burden to everyone around me, and I can just not see myself go through life without hands and arms. So the moment before I killed myself, I reached out for help through counting the 5 bravest seconds. I have never been so brave in my life, just reaching out for the last time. And they came to my rescue. I started, doing physio and started getting better. Obviously, long journey, but
Sure.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It puts a great deal of perspective on things to be in that situation. And I'd be lying if I said I could even begin to imagine what you had been through. And what I was intrigued with, certainly part of what I'd read and learning about your arms and the surgeries and so on. And when we first started talking, I thought, geez, his arms look fine. There's nothing wrong with his arms.
Yeah.
But of course, that's clearly not correct. Yeah. And so I guess what I'd like to just touch on briefly is in terms of, obviously, you're in a situation where, even as human beings, but more so as men, as providers, you're in a situation where you can't provide for your family. You see yourself as a burden, useless, and all those other thoughts. What was your relationship like with your wife? If you could touch on that.
That is such an awesome question. You hit the nail on the head. I literally stopped talking about it just there for a reason, because I was hoping so much you're going to ask me. Look, I've been known not to pull any punches and to tell you exactly how it is. And I can tell you today that the stresses and the burdens on a relationship is phenomenal. You cannot imagine how much stress, especially when you're brand new in a country. You are sitting there, you got house payments, kids at school, car payments, rent. You got so many things going on. You don't have the money. Your husband is sitting in that room, just sitting in and uselessly. So the stresses just became too much, and I think the relationship broke down severely, and it became a little festy, a little poisonous. So it was very much me crawling back into my little box, because I knew I was useless and I couldn't do. I had nothing left in the world for me, and I guess that is kind of the process where I was sitting and feeling utterly useless in my life, and that was the start of me thinking, I don't think I should live anymore. I should be dying. So that was terrible. We did split up.
That was my next question. That was my next question. So you're not with your wife of the time. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your relationship like with your children, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So they were very young, 9 and 10 years old, the 2 boys, 6-year-old, my little princess. And we then, the wife left, and me and the 3 kids were together. But with the 3 kids, and these other things, Con, that I never touch on in presentations, because this is getting too deep. And not for me, but sometimes the audience, it gets too much. So I'll just brush on this a little bit. The days where because I was in workers' comp, I didn't have any money. The days when I had to wake him up in the mornings and I knew that I only had 1 wheat pick to share between the three of them, and I didn't have milk, so I could put hot water on the wheat bix, send them to school with no bread. Mate, that killed me. And it not only killed me because I let them go hungry at school, but because it was my mistake. It was my fault. It was my decision. I brought this on them. You can't imagine the times that the teachers calls me and said, "Hey, Theo, there's your little princess has got no bread today." And again, I go, "Yeah, I know. I'm getting paid today." And it's so embarrassing. And so we draw through those days where it was really tough and really hard, and my little girl had to be the woman in the house, and it wasn't fair on a young girl, but she sorry she had to step up a little bit to two boys as well, and because we went through that very harsh times, we started to grow our bond so much stronger. It was so easy for them to get into drugs and alcohol, and myself as well. They just go and give it up, and but we stood strong, and they were my why. They were the why that I actually pulled through. They were the one reason in my life that my life was stripped bare. I had nothing left. I had no more hands. I had no job. I had no more life left. But my why was my kids, and that is the message I take through. And that's coming into your question is what about the kids today? My three kids are absolutely the most amazing kids I've ever seen, stronger than anyone else. My little princess slammed a fist on the table the other morning or other night to the two boys. They're still fighting. And she said, your and my friends has got no idea what struggles are. They think if they lose a phone or they got no internet or they break a nail, it's the end of the world. She said, we are so strong. We've got so much backbone and so much. She just went on and on and on, and I went, yeah, that's my girl. So absolutely amazing. My eldest son is married. I'm a granddad now. My second son
congratulations.
He's getting married on the 22nd of this month, and life is amazing.
Only from morbid curiosity, and short answer.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to do with your ex-wife?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We still talk. We've got kids.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no. But mate, we know how these things pan out sometimes. So
let me just go on to that for 1 second. Just 1 second.
Sure.
I had to go and work on myself to figure out what I could own. So it's called extreme ownership. What I could have owned out of everything that happened to us, and I did, and I fixed myself up, and I apologize for what I could have done different, and that's extreme ownership. So I did that, and my burden is lifted. I know what I could have done, so I'm working on myself still today. Yeah, good.
I think it's fair to say that we are all a work in progress.
Yep.
We are all a work in progress.
Yep.
There's no debate about that. Theo, I had the pleasure to speak to a lady by the name of Rebecca King on one of my previous episodes, who goes by the name The Brain Changer. She's a NLP master, and also from a corporate life, depression, thoughts of suicide, and getting herself out of it. And we chatted about what she did, how she did it, and some strategies. I'm just curious. Depression and anxiety are major issues in society, and whether they're from a workplace accident, whether they're from an illness, whether they're from other reasons, just for the benefit of the listeners and viewers, can you take us through maybe a couple of things that you did that were helpful to you to try and get through that really, really dark time?
Yeah, that is a jackpot question, Con, because most of the time that I was severely depressed and anxiety, I did not see an outcome. You don't see it. And today, looking back, I knew that I had kids that depends on me, and my why was strong. And at the end of the day, if you have an intrinsically motivated or inspired why, your highest values, that will always come back to you and drive you through it. Not to say that that is only the instigator. That's the catalyst that will start a process where you do go into, you do accept who you are. Because in those days, when I did 17 years ago, there was a stigma attached to that kind of thing. So a big time stigma, I think, today as well. You just, what are you, a softie? What, who are you? And so I didn't want to reveal that at all. The other thing is, someone said to me one day, and I know it might sound a little corny and stupid to most people, but he said to me, he said, Theo, that black dog, he said, that black dog bites hard. I said, mate, I maybe I'm the only one in the world that knows that. He says, but do you know that there's a white dog? I go, what is this about? And he goes, no, no one ever told you. And I said, no, what's this? And he said, there's two dogs, mate. There's not just a black one. He says there's a black one and a white one. And he says those two are fighting. And you know what? At the moment, that black dog is beating you up. I said, yes, I know. I'd never heard of the white dog. He says, do you know why? I said, no. He says, it's because you keep on feeding it. It becomes stronger. He says, why don't you stop feeding the black dog and start feeding the white one? And I just went, wow. You see, there's a chance. So there's hope. He created hope in my mind, and immediately thought, I got to do something about this. And slowly but surely, every time, someone said to me one day, remember, he said, for every setback is a setup for a comeback. So the white dog is the one that makes the comeback. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. And I started making comebacks. And I know it sounds easy now. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. But once you start to believe that you can and you can get through it, you don't look further than the one little step that you have to do. You look at that little step in the right direction that will become the biggest leap of your life. And that is me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Every setback is a setup for a comeback.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow. Through your experience and you finding out your why and your purpose, moving on to the work that you're doing, I read about your 6 bedrock foundation pillars for the work that you do. Can you take us through those?
Yes, absolutely, I can. So in my story, through and these are the things that I highlight through my story. And when you listen to the story and you're invested into your emotions, it turns you into a cellular level where you make different changes in your life. The very first one is agreements. Now, I'll explain the 6 very shortly. This, when I speak to a higher level, so like if I speak to leadership that is on a higher level, this is what I will tell them. The first one is agreements. You make an agreement. If you can teach your teams to make agreements on a morning and say, all right, let's recount tomorrow morning, that agreement then becomes their personal accountability and ownership. So if someone breaks an agreement, their teammate will shout to him, hey, Joe, agreements. I made the agreements with my wife and my kids and my dad, who was my rock in my life, that I will come over and everything is going to be fine. But I broke that agreement with the people I love most in life. And by my mistake, I want them to understand that never, ever, if you keep an agreement, you are the proudest person in the world. Agreement is the first one. The second one is your gut feel. That gut feel when you get about just before you're doing something stupid. That there's a biological explanation for this gut feel, and that'll most probably put us over time. But I can explain exactly how that works and where it comes from. And that gut feel is a real thing. It's actually your superpower. It's something that you've got to listen to and trust. And it's just hard when you're in a situation and you get the gut feel.
Intuition.
It's easy. Intuition, yes, they call it chronic unease, intuition, all kinds of stuff. That's the gut feel. Then the next one, it's my personal favorite, is dream about your perfect day. Because in our industry, we always get told how many times we screwed up. We always count our mistakes and then give it to the workforce. You've had so many LTIs, you've had so many MTIs, you've had so many screw ups. We injured so many people. Let's see if we can do less of that next month. Of all the bad stuff that we've done, and it just doesn't make sense. Why would you count your bad things and measure yourself upon that? It just doesn't make sense. Have you ever stood on a golf course and there's a water on the right, big trees just behind them, out of bounds on your left, and you go, I shouldn't get into the water, I shouldn't get into out of bounds, and then you know where you're going to go, right? Or you're going to go in the water. Or if you're going skiing down a slope and you, as you ski down the slope, it goes, I got to miss that tree, miss that tree, miss that tree, miss that tree, and I got to miss this one. Guess what?
You're hitting a tree.
Yeah. If you're standing on that golf course and you see that big, wide open fairway and you've got positivity in your mind, and everyone will agree with this, everyone knows this, you will hit the fairway. In the middle of the fairway depends on how strong you are. And if you ski down a slope and you see the gaps between the trees, you will never hit a tree. You see the gaps. It's clear. You know where you go. So that is the perfect day. If we strive towards what good looks like, in a workplace, turn their minds around, show them what good looks like, and then let them pursue those dreams. Let them pursue the dreams that becomes, your dreams are the compass guiding you. So pursue them passionately. Show them what good looks like. The next one. The next two actually is for that 5 seconds I was talking about, 5 brave seconds. If you're strong enough and you can stop and you pause for 5 seconds and you just think about it, let it digest in your system, feel it, let it. It doesn't matter what situation you're in, just let it sit. You will make a much better choice in a decision after 5 seconds of bravery, thinking, the next one is I'll take a step in the right direction that can become the biggest leap of my life. And that makes so much more sense than just blindly doing it like I did and put your hands in there and be the Mr. Fix-It guy, which it's absolutely stupid. The last one, and what I always do, I want to just share this with you. I give out every last present in the last 5 years or so. I've given out a 12 millimeter nut that people put on their keyrings. It's just a symbol of their why. So the very last one is their why. Now, a nut, as you know, a nut has got 6 sides, and I've got 6 bedrock foundations. Every side means something. It's got a perfect circle in the middle for your perfect day, and it's got 5 threads inside that nut that means the 5 seconds of bravery. Now, the whole nut gets engraved with your family's names if you want, or whatever. You take that nut, and that is your why, because with your why, you can endure anyhow. If your why is strong, you can get through it. Doesn't matter where you are or who you are. But the most important thing is if you've got a strong why, you know why you need to be safe at work. No one needs to tell you about why you need to be safe. You are intrinsically inspired.
I love that symbol. Can I just clarify something? Because I know somebody's going to send me an email and go, Con, that was only 5. Have I missed one? So we've got agreement, we've got the gut feel, we've got the dream about the perfect day, we've got the 5 brave seconds, stop, pause, and feel it, and then the symbol. What did I miss in there?
What? Which one did I miss one? Oh, this is let me have a look. I didn't miss anything.
Well.
All right, so
agreement.
It's agreement.
Gut feel. Dream about the perfect day. 5 brave seconds. And then I had the symbol.
Sorry, yeah, that yeah, I combined the two together. So the 5 brave seconds,
Ah, right.
and
Okay.
then
Yep.
the step in the right
Yeah,
direction. Yeah,
right. Okay. Step. Okay. Got you. Step in right direction. Right. Okay. See, I
yeah,
confused even you. Step in
yeah.
right direction. Let me
Judging
write this
myself.
down. Very good. Okay. I love it. Fantastic. Love it. I'd like to chat briefly. You mentioned before, and I read on your website doing some research. You've done some significant research in speaking to thousands of employees, senior leaders, including executives, and you've researched hundreds of incidents. Is there let's say, a common thread, a common denominator?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When you get a total buy-in, when I go and sit with someone that's just had an incident, their first instinct is to close up and not talk. When I tell them and show them my hands and tell them how I messed up and I owned it, they've got a sense of disclosure. They want to tell me exactly what happens, and that's why I've got the overhand and upper hand on the real info that comes out. And
Mm.
every single incident investigation that comes out, they said to me, Theo, mate, I just wanted to get the job done. It's just like that. It's every single one. So that is the ground foundation of, okay, let's start there, and then we work ourselves back and see what it looks like to get the job done, and then you to take it apart. There's a lot of incident investigation methods and stuff to find the truth. I know there's a lot, and I've done all of them, but if you can start with the truth, that is vulnerable. That vulnerability is amazing to see, and that gives you the power to then work yourself back. And there's a lot of reasons and a lot of stuff that comes up through the investigation, but yeah, they just wanted to get the job done. Not They weren't proud of how they looked back and did it safely. They just, Theo, I just want to get the job done. And I go, mate, I understand that 100% more than you think. Easy enough, isn't it? But when you start to dissect it,
Yeah.
you find it's a can of worms. Yeah.
Time is something that we can't control. There's only 24 hours in a day, and it's certainly something, there's been time management experts and productivity experts based on time and time this and time that. And do you see perhaps a culture in the work that you do where there is pressure brought to bear about expediency and about how you did it doesn't matter. All that matters is you got it done.
Yep.
Are you seeing
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It depends on on culture. I've seen really amazing cultures in my days of traveling, and I've seen really poor. So I have seen both ends of the stick. And with a absolute mature culture, when I speak to them, you're almost preaching to the converted already, and they are proactive and they go out there, and you can see that nothing bothers them. They the people, you understand that their culture dictates in a mature culture that they're working for each other, with each other. They're all pulling in the same direction, and they are a common goal that they're working towards, and everyone works together. It's going to the top of the hill. That's other thing. When you get into bad cultures, they point towards each other. They go, "I'm great. I am this. I'm do everything." And then that festy, that poisonous nature starts to filter down, especially when you get through the leadership. And when leadership is getting to that culture, you can see that they pushing them down. That time is the essence, because every business needs to make money, and there is pressure of money. I mean, that's exactly why they're there. So I can understand that. I don't care if it's perceived pressure or real pressure right there and then. But those are, if you have a strong why and a strong culture in your workplace, it would not matter if there's time pressures. It is what it is. I've seen both ends of the side, and I can tell you today, some of the places I've seen is the most amazing place where they just go, mate, this is not good enough. I need something better or safer. And that's beautiful.
I'm curious. Your comments on this. A lot of organizations that people go into now as employees, team members, whatever you'd like to call them, there's certainly induction processes. You've got to do these training videos and occ health and safety and so on. Do you see a level of hypocrisy that here's what I need you to do? You need to do this training, you need to understand it, you need to be safe at work. Yet on the other hand, the environment is not fostering that culture. And I'd like to give you a simple example of something that I've experienced, and I'd love you to elaborate on it. I did some work for an organization, no names, some time ago, and their training videos were about, particularly in the occ health safety aspect, about making sure that the walkways were clear and boxes of things weren't in the way, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've got to tell you, walking around the offices, you had to climb over boxes to get where you needed to go. You needed to lean over. And again, your back, you've got to lean in. You don't have good posture. You're not bending with your knees and so on. Talk to me.
Unfortunately, you could not nail the head of that nail any better. It is a facade. It's smoke and mirrors. There's so many people that preaches one thing and is not that kind of thing. They're not congruent. They are not open and honest. They're not vulnerable. They show this facade and they will put it up and they will say, this is our values, and our values are so important to us, and they will make these hundreds of thousands of dollars up to show their people, but their values means nothing if you don't live your values. And if the values of the leadership doesn't line up with the values of the workers, because you don't have to accept the values. You can accept your own values if you want. So if it's a strong, that's what I do with big leadership groups, and with total mine sites as well. And that, I don't know, that sounds like very much a mine site big problem, and construction sites, and any other site as well, is if we're going to do a total cultural transformation. If I come in as an ambassador for a total cultural transformation, the very first group I target is senior leadership. That they have to be on board and work under the same basic structure rules as the bottom guy is going to be. So we're going to ask you that, what is your perfect day, and line up your perfect day, and then compare you or line you up and see if you are aligned with your perfect day. And then we're going to ask you if we're going to make an agreement with you that you will come to the meeting next time on time, and there will be no excuses. And so now the personal accountability starts to set in the ground, bedrock foundations, where now you can see we are getting you in. Because if the guy at the bottom gets to a pre-start in the morning and he's late, he's got to be the same consequence for the CEO in a company. It just has to be the same. And if I have spoken to so many workplaces where they're just not going to buy into that, then I say, sorry, mate, you're not for me.
See you later.
That's your maturity and your culture is not for me. I'm sorry, we can't work together. But you have to, you got to be the same level of openness and honesty and vulnerability, and you got to shave the same thing all the way through down to the bottom. And only when that happens is when the whole company starts to grow. And I've seen it happen. I did especially if they find their whys and their, I call it a mission statement. So yeah, it's got to be all the same.
Everyone's got to be on board.
Yep.
Everyone's got to be on board. Can't be two sets of rules. Do as I say and not as I do. Yep. As one of my teachers used to tell me many, many years ago.
Yes.
We digress. Theo, I could speak to you for hours and hours. I know you're a very busy man. This has been absolutely fascinating, and I know that the audience is going to be absolutely fixated on this. I want to thank you so much for you taking your valuable time to be a guest on my program. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm honored to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on your program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Con.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Con. I am the Conversationalist. My guest today has been Theo Venter, the only person known to have survived 22,000 volts and 1,200 amps and lived to see another day. Until next time, bye for now.